Someone is asking, what should you consider before taking up debt so that you avoid burning your fingers? Welcome to a word from the coach. If this is your first time here, please take a moment and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give us a like on this video. Drop us a comment. If you have any other question you would want me to respond to, feel free to drop it in the comment section or to inbox me, and I'll be glad to make another word from the coach video in response to the same. Today's question is a very practical question, very timely question. It's a question that everyone needs to have an answer to. What should you consider before you borrow, before you take up loans, before you can be able to sign up for any credit facility so that you minimize burning your fingers? There are very many things to be considered. I will be making a video for each of those things, and I know the list will not even be conclusive, so that we can do justice to them, so that you can be able to understand how each of those considerables work, how each of those factors work, so that you can be an informed borrower. So today, I will talk about the purpose for borrowing. That before you borrow money, there is a reason behind why you are borrowing. If this reason is a powerful reason, then your experience might be powerful. If this reason is a weak reason, then your experience with debt might be not very interesting. The interesting thing about purpose for borrowing is that every borrower has a reason for borrowing, and every borrower thinks or believes that their reason is a good reason. A good reason for borrowing is a reason after you have borrowed, you find yourself in a better place. You look back and you are happy that you took up that debt. A bad reason is a reason that leaves you worse than it found you. Is a reason that after you have borrowed for, later on you look back and you want to regret. You want to wonder how you got to where you are at that particular point. But the bottom line is that there will always be a reason. For you to go far with debt, you must consider this reason. I like dividing borrowers into two categories. We have borrowers that I call ability-driven borrowers. These are the majority of borrowers. These are borrowers who borrow just because there is a willing lender or because they qualify to access some money. Then there is a category that I would want to invite you to the category that I call the purpose-driven borrowers. These are borrowers who borrow driven by the reason for their borrowing. Therefore, if you want to achieve much using other people's money, using borrowed money, then you must begin to learn how to apply purpose-driven borrowing. Borrowing that is driven by your reason for borrowing. Ideally, every borrowing decision, this is the decision of the amount to be borrowed, the decision of where to borrow, the decision of when to borrow, and all those needs to be driven by the reason for borrowing. Therefore, you must consider that reason. Is it a good reason for borrowing? Is it a reason that will leave me better than I am now if I borrow for it, or will leave me worse than I am now, if I borrow for it? Is it a legal reason, or is it a reason that will get me into trouble if I were to engage in? You also have certain questions you must ask yourself to validate whether this reason is good for borrowing for at this particular time. You want to ask yourself, for instance, must I borrow for this reason? Must I borrow now? Sometimes we rush to take up debt when it is not even time for us to borrow. We are rushing to borrow for things that could even wait for us to get our own money. It is important for us to remember that debt is not free money. Debt comes at a cost, and therefore we must be careful borrowers. So you want to ask yourself whether it's a must, it's mandatory, it's necessary for you to borrow for this reason, for you to borrow now, whether you can wait. Can it wait until you are able to get money through other means? Right? You want to ask yourself if there is any other alternative for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve through this reason. Maybe someone is pushing you to pay their money. You owed someone money and you had promised them that you would pay now. So today has come, but you don't have money. And you find yourself wanting to borrow from another source. Maybe it's an expensive source so that you can be able to pay off this person. there might be an alternative for you to talk to this person, explain to them that the money you thought would come today has not come. It will come maybe after another 1 week, so that they can be able to extend some grace to you. They can be able to allow you some more time. That is an alternative that will prevent you from incurring the cost of borrowing for that particular reason. Under this same factor of purpose, it's also important for you to answer the question, who am I borrowing for? Who am I borrowing for? Now, when I talk about who you are borrowing for, I do not necessarily mean who you will give the money after the lender has given you the money. I know we have cases where people borrow on behalf of others, and those are grave mistakes people make out here. Just because someone is a close friend of yours, someone has convinced you, someone has told you, if you borrowed for me, I'll be able to repay the money, and on top of repaying the money, I will be able maybe to give you something on top. So we have had people who make the blunder of borrowing money on behalf of others. Very many of them have burnt their fingers because immediately after they borrowed, maybe the other people were able to repay a month, 2 or 3 months worth of installments, and then they went quiet. And therefore they were left with the debt to repay, because the debt is in their name, not in the beneficiary's name. But what I'm talking about here is beyond the physical giving of money. I am talking about the inspiration for borrowing. This reason that you want to borrow for. Where did you get the inspiration to want to have this reason? For example, I have argued that if you borrow so that you can buy something, so that you can look like another person, you have borrowed for that person. If you borrow so that you can buy something for you to look better than another person, you have borrowed for that person. The driving force for you to get the purpose, let's say you are borrowing to buy a phone. So the purpose is buying a phone. But the inspiration behind the phone is not original to you. You are buying this phone so that you can also show your friends that you can also be able to afford a phone of that caliber or a car of that caliber. So you did not originally need that car or that whatever it is that you want to buy. But you're doing it so that your friends can also know that you are relevant. You're doing it for fear of missing out. You're doing it for other people to recognize you. You're doing so that you can compete and probably look better than your peers. You have borrowed for them. And I usually give a very simple example for you to know that you've borrowed for other people. If you and I work in the same office and you see me with a very nice phone and you develop the urge to have a similar phone, but you don't have the money, so you go and borrow money and you buy a phone similar to mine so that tomorrow you can come to the office and also flash out your phone that is similar to mine so that, we are now equals. If you did that and tomorrow you come to the office with your new phone that now matches mine, and as you go into your pocket to flash it out, if I flashed out a better phone than the one you saw yesterday, you will be frustrated. Why are you frustrated if the phone was yours? In that case, I argue that you are borrowing for me and not for yourself. Now, if you want to go far in the world of using other people's money, if you want to go far using borrowed money, you must learn to borrow for yourself. You must learn to borrow for reasons that are inspired by your own aspirations. I am not saying it is wrong to be inspired by other people, but you must learn to customize the inspiration for it to suit your life and financial realities. You don't just visit me or visit someone in their home and you find them owning their home, and tomorrow you are queuing for a mortgage loan because you want that next time when they visit you, they also find you in your own home. You will burn your fingers. You do not know their story. You don't know whether they also borrowed or not. You are working so hard to compare and compete with people whose stories you know nothing about. If you want to go far utilizing borrowed money, you must learn to customize such inspirations to suit your own realities. Maybe your realities dictate that you need to buy a piece of land, you need to start constructing slowly. Maybe your own realities dictate that now is not the time for that particular thing that you want to borrow to buy or to borrow to have. You must learn to be original. You must learn to be true to yourself. So you must remember to consider the purpose for which you are borrowing. This consideration happens before you approach a lender. This happens at the point when the thought to borrow has just come. You have just remembered that you can access some money for this reason that is lingering in your head. You must take that reason through some process of qualification to see whether it qualifies for you to proceed and borrow for it or not. If the answers to the questions I have suggested will be no, then you want to pause, you want to hold on, you want to take a break, you want to wait, you want to re-examine that reason further, so that you make sure that you're borrowing for reasons that will leave you proud and happy that you actually borrowed for them, and not for reasons you will regret borrowing for. Good people, I hope this helps you. In the next video, I will go to the next factor to be considered, so that then as you choose to engage into borrowed money, you are doing so with a sober mind, you're doing so with an informed mind, you are doing so with a clear mind that you're doing something that is not going to burn your fingers right from the word go. If you've loved what you've had here, please like this video, drop us a comment. Once again, if you have any other question that you would love me to address, feel free to drop it in the comment section or to inbox me, and I'll be glad to make another word from the coach video in response to the same. See you in the next. You can do better.